for surfing into the summer reading program. My name is Kay Burns, and I'm a storyteller. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm going to tell you a story. Now, the story that I'm going to begin with was written and published in 1846 by the famous Edgar Allan Poe. Now, you may know that Edgar Allan Poe is the father of the macabre. He's the guy who started the whole horror, goth, murder and mayhem, mystery kind of stories. Before Edgar Allan Poe, nobody had done anything like what he has given us. Now, the story that I'm going to tell you is one of his most famous. It's called The Cask of Amontillado. And there are only two things that you kind of need to know in order to make sense of the story. The first is that Amontillado is a very fine Spanish wine. And the other thing you need to know is that Masons can be two different kinds of people. Masons can be people who build things with bricks and mortar. But Masons can also refer to people who are part of a very secret and mysterious society that dates back hundreds of years. The Masons use secret handshakes and signs and signals to communicate their presence to each other. And so now, I'm ready, you're ready, let's enjoy the cask of Amontillado. A 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could. But when he ventured into insult, well, I vowed revenge. And you, who know the nature of my soul so well, you know that this did not give utterance to a threat. No, in time I would be avenged. I must punish, but I must punish with impunity, for a wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes the avenger. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make herself known as such to he who has done the wrong. He had a weakness, this Fortunato. Oh, in many ways, he was a man to be admired, respected, even feared. But he prided himself on his connoisseurship, his knowledge of wine. And in this regard, we were not dissimilar, for I myself was skillful in the vintages, and I bought largely whenever I could. It was dusk, evening, at the height of madness in the carnival season, when I encountered my dear friend. He was dressed in motley, the costume of a fool. He was wearing a tight-fitting striped dress with that conical cap upon his head, the bells dangling and jingling all around. He accosted me warmly, for he had been drinking much. "Oh, Fortunato," I said, "why, how luckily we meet, and my, how wonderful you are looking this evening, Fortunato." "Oh, Fortunato, I have obtained what passes for a cask of Amontillado, but I have my doubts, and I was foolish enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you, but I did not wish to miss the bargain." "Amontillado," he said, "impossible. During Carnival? Yes, it passes for Amontillado, but I have my doubts, and they must be satisfied. Amontillado? Yes, Amontillado. But I am on my way to find Lucrezi. It is said his knowledge of wine rivals your own. He will tell me." "Lucrezi? Why, Lucrezi wouldn't know Amontillado from sherry. Oh, Amontillado. Let us go." "Where?"
"To your vaults."
"Oh, no, Fortunato, you are otherwise engaged. I will find Lucrezi."
"Lucrezi is an ignoramus. Let us go."
"Oh, Fortunato, it is not your engagement. It is that cough with which you are afflicted, my friend. My vaults are insufferably damp, and the walls are lined with nitre. Oh, it would not be good for your health, Fortunato."
Well, this cough is nothing. Amontillado, let us go."
And he grabbed my arm tightly. "Very well. Let us go." I wrapped my cloak tightly, and I pulled a black silk cap over my head. When we arrived at my palazzo, my home had been abandoned. The servants were off making merry in honor of the carnival. Oh, of course I had told them that I would not return until morning, and I gave them strict orders that no one was to leave the property. I knew that guaranteed their immediate disappearance. No, Fortunato and I were alone. From their sconces on the wall, I removed 2 flambeaux. I handed him a torch, and I guided him through a series of suites to the arched doorway that led down to the catacombs, where my family, the Montresors, had long been buried. We began to descend the narrow staircase. Those bells on that cap were jingling. His gait was unsteady. "Oh, use caution, Fortunato, use caution." And down we went until we stood upon the dirt floor of the catacombs, where I paused and I raised my torch. Oh, look, Fortunato, look at that white web that gleams upon the walls. And he turned to me with watery orbs that revealed his intoxication.
"Nitre?"
Yes, Fortunato, it is nitre, and it is not good for your health. Oh, my friend, please, let us go back.
"Nitre.
Oh, Fortunato, how long have you had that cough?" He could not reply for several minutes.
"This cough is nothing. I shall not die of a cough."
Oh, well, no, my friend, you will not die of a cough. Ah, but perhaps a drink of wine to keep away the damp. And I pulled a bottle of my best red from the wall. He took it and he drank deeply. I drink Montresor to your family that lie here in repose. And I, Fortunato, I drink to your long life. Let us go. I took him by the arm and I guided him down the passageway. The walls were lined with bottles and bones, and we descended further and further and further beneath my palazzo. We came to an innermost chamber. I paused and raised my torch again. Oh, look, Fortunato, look at these walls. We are beneath the riverbank. Do you see how the moisture trickles down between the bones? Oh, Fortunato, this place is not good for your health. Please, let us go back. Amontillado. Oh, perhaps another drink of wine. Oh, of course. And I pulled another bottle from the wall. He took it and he drank, and then with a wild gesticulation, he tossed the bottle aside and he looked at me. You do not understand. No, then you are not of the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood? You are not a Mason. Oh, a Mason? Why, yes. Yes, I am. You are a Mason? A sign. Give me a sign. Oh, it is this. And I reached into the pocket of my cloak and I brought forth a Mason's trowel. Oh, you jest, Montresor. Put that away. Amontillado. Oh, Amontillado. I put the trowel into my pocket and I took him by the arm. I guided him down one last narrow passageway until we came to a chamber where the air was so dank and foul that our torches glowed rather than flamed. Now, 3 walls of this chamber were lined with bones, but from the 4th wall, the bones had been removed and they lie in a pile. On that 4th wall, there was yet one more small recess, a niche. It was perhaps 4 feet wide and 3 feet deep, 6 feet high. And the back was a solid slab of granite. I took his torch. The Amontillado, Fortunato. It is within. Go, proceed. It is yours. And he stumbled drunkenly forward into that niche. It took me only a breath to chain him to the wall. For you see, in that granite slab were 2 iron staples, and from one hung a padlock and the other a chain. I wrapped that chain tightly around him, and I secured the lock. He was too drunk, too amazed to resist. I stepped away with the key in my hand. Oh, Fortunato, this place is not good for your health. Let us go. No? Well then, I must leave you. But first, let me give you all of my attention. And I turned to that pile of bones. Beneath it were my bricks and mortar. I removed that trowel from my pocket, and I began to seal up the entrance of that niche. I laid the first tier of brick, and it was then I knew that his intoxication had flown away, for he let out a groan, and it was not the groan of a drunken man. No, this was a groan of mortal terror. I laid the second, the third, the fourth tier. Oh, then began the furious clanking of the chain as he tried to escape. Oh, until he could no more. And then I laid the fifth, the sixth, the seventh tier. It was now chest high. He began to scream, loud, hideous, terrified screams. Oh, and so pleasant was the sound that I ceased my labor, and I stepped away that I might listen with even greater satisfaction. I began to scream with him, and my screams filled that chamber until he could scream no more. And I laid the 9th, 10th, 11th tier of brick. There now remained but one aperture, one hole, one brick. Inside that niche, I heard a weak and feeble voice, a voice I would never have recognized as that of the mighty Fortunato. Oh, Montresor, this is a fine jest that you have played upon me, but please, let us go back. Yes, Fortunato, let us go back. Oh, for the love of God, Montresor, for the love of God, Fortunato. I took a torch and pushed it through that hole. I leaned in. Fortunato, nothing. Fortunato, nothing. Nothing but the jingling of those bells. I put that last brick into place. I took the bones and I rebuilt that rampart, and there it has remained for over 50 years, untouched by human hands. And Fortunato, well, may he rest in peace. I hope you enjoyed that story, and I hope that you'll enjoy this one too. You know, The Cask of Amontillado was written and published in 1846. That's a long time ago. But there are a lot of great stories that are even older than that. So let's go back to ancient Greece, the time of Zeus and Hades and Poseidon, the time when mythology was used to make sense of a world that existed without much knowledge and science. This is the ancient Greek myth of Demeter and Persephone. Of all those gods and goddesses that lived up on Mount Olympus, Demeter was the kindest and the most helpful to the mortals, the humans that lived on earth. You see, Demeter was goddess of the grain. Demeter was in charge of everything that grew on earth. It was Demeter who painted the trees green. It was Demeter who kept the little flowers with those colorful blooms. It was Demeter who pulled the crops to harvest. Oh, the mortals, they loved Demeter. Now, Demeter had one daughter, a beautiful young woman by the name of Persephone. Persephone was not only beautiful, she was kind and generous like her mother. Persephone was so special that Demeter knew Persephone was going to get a lot of attention from both the gods on Mount Olympus and the mortal men. And so Demeter kept her daughter close. But one day, Persephone came to her mother, begging, "Please, mother, I want to go to the meadow and pick flowers. Please, may I go?" And Demeter said yes. "But be careful, Persephone. Keep your eyes and your ears open and do not be gone long." "Oh, I won't, mother. I will. Oh, thank you." And Persephone ran to the meadow. She made a basket with her skirt, and she began to pick the flowers. As she was picking flowers, Persephone looked across the meadow, and there she saw a single solitary tree, and beneath the tree was a single beautiful bloom, a little purple flower like nothing Persephone had ever seen. Oh, she wanted that flower. And so Persephone began to walk across the meadow. And as she got closer, oh, that flower had the most beautiful fragrance. Finally, Persephone was standing beneath the tree. She knelt down and she pulled that flower from the earth. But she did not get that flower into her skirt, because as soon as she plucked it from the ground began to shake, quake, and right before her eyes, the earth cracked open, And that crack in the earth grew wider and deeper and wider and deeper and wider and deeper until there was a huge gaping hole in the ground. Persephone stood there staring at the hole when she heard a roar like nothing she'd ever heard, not even from the top of Mount Olympus. And out of that hole came 4 magnificent horses. They were pulling a chariot made of gold, and standing in the chariot, whipping those horses, was Hades himself. Now, Hades, you know. Hades was god of the underworld. Hades was king of the dead. Hades was the brother of Zeus, the most powerful god on Mount Olympus. And the mortals, they feared Hades. Hades came charging out of that hole. He saw the beautiful Persephone, reached out with one arm and pulled her into his chariot. Hades whipped those horses. They dashed around the tree, and they dove back down into the hole. The earth closed up as though nothing had happened, and down they went. Persephone was hysterical. She was screaming and crying. But Hades didn't care. He took her to the underworld. He put her on a throne, put a crown on her head. Stop crying, Persephone. You will be my queen, and we will rule forever. But Persephone, she couldn't stop crying. Persephone, she wouldn't look at Hades. She would not speak to Hades. And Persephone would not take a crumb of food. She would not eat. Now up above, Demeter was also very upset. She had gone to the meadow and Persephone had vanished. Persephone! Persephone! Did you see what happened? Do you know where she is? Can you help? But no one could help. And so Demeter went flying up to Helios, god of the sun. The sun sees everything on earth. Did you see what happened? Where is my daughter? And Helios explained. Oh, Demeter, it was Hades. He has taken Persephone to be his queen. It was all done with the blessing of Zeus. Zeus planted the flower that drew Persephone to that place. Oh, Demeter, it is a good match. You should be pleased. But Demeter was not pleased. Zeus did this. Zeus will bring my daughter back. And Demeter went flying to the top of Mount Olympus. There was Zeus with that lightning bolt in his hand. But Demeter was not afraid. You have sent my daughter to be your brother's queen? Bring her back. But Zeus just laughed. No, Demeter, my brother deserves a queen of Persephone's beauty. She shall stay And that doubled Demeter's anger. No, she will not stay. You will bring my daughter back, and until you do, I will do nothing for those mortals on earth. Nothing. And in a great flash of light, Demeter transformed. She changed into an ugly, old, shriveled up hag of a woman. And she disappeared. She went into hiding amongst the mortals on earth. But true to her word, Demeter did nothing. And the trees shed their leaves. They stood empty. The little flowers, they lost their colorful blooms and they wilted away. There were no crops in the field. There was no harvest. There was no food. And the mortals grew hungry. A famine spread around the world, and the mortals began to die of starvation. Now Zeus was watching from the top of Mount Olympus, and Zeus was concerned. If all the mortals died, who would worship the gods? Something must be done. And so Zeus called for Hermes, the messenger of the gods. Go to my brother. Tell him that Persephone must be set free. And Hermes flew off to deliver the message. Now, there was just one small problem. You see, long before that, there were these 3 women. They were called the Fates. And the Fates had said that anyone who went to the underworld and ate was doomed to stay forever. Not even Zeus could overrule the Fates. So, had Persephone eaten? Zeus didn't know. But Hermes went to the underworld, delivered the message, and Hades understood. He could not argue with Zeus. So Persephone would be set free. Persephone was getting ready to leave. Hermes reached out for her hand. Hades reached into his pocket and he brought out a bright red, ripe pomegranate. Now the pomegranate is the fruit of the gods. You must be hungry, Persephone. Please take this pomegranate and enjoy. And Persephone was hungry. She was very hungry, and that pomegranate looked so good. She reached out and she took that fruit. She cracked it open, and inside were hundreds of tiny red juicy seeds. Persephone lifted that pomegranate to her lips. She took just a teeny tiny nibble as Hermes grabbed her by the hand, whoosh, pulled her from the underworld. Now, Demeter and Persephone were reunited, and they were so happy. Oh, they cried and they kissed and they celebrated. But then Demeter looked her daughter right in the eyes. Tell me, Persephone, tell me that you did not eat. No, no, Mother, I didn't eat. I was leaving. Hermes was there. Mother, it was only 4 tiny pomegranate seeds. That's all it was. It was just 4 tiny seeds, Mother. What does this mean? And Demeter didn't know. What did this mean? So again, Demeter flew to the top of Mount Olympus, and there was Zeus. But this time, Demeter begged for his help. Please, please do not send my daughter to be your brother's queen. Please, you must find a compromise. You must find a solution. Help me. And Zeus, he'd already seen what kind of trouble Demeter could cause when Demeter was angry. Zeus didn't want any more trouble with Demeter, but what could he do? Zeus finally decreed that for each of the 4 pomegranate seeds that Persephone had eaten, she would spend 1 month in the underworld. The other 8 months of the year, Persephone could return to her mother's arms. And that was the best that Zeus could do. And so it was. Every year, Persephone must kiss her mother goodbye, and she must return to the underworld for those 4 long months. While she's gone, Demeter gets angry all over again. And while Persephone is gone, Demeter does nothing. The trees lose their leaves and they stand empty. The little flowers lose their blooms and they wilt away. There are no crops in the field. But when Persephone returns, Demeter is again happy and generous, and she paints the trees green, and she caps the flowers in color, and she pulls those crops to harvest. And that is the cycle that has repeated itself year after year after year after year after year after year after year from that time so long ago to this. Well, thanks again for surfing in and listening to my stories. Now, they're your stories too. And when you can get to the library, or you can get online and you can probably find both those stories, you can find others like them. Go find out a little bit about Edgar Allan Poe and go dig into the ancient Greek myths. Wonderful stories everywhere. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. I hope you'll come back into the library website, check out the rest of their summer programming. Y'all take care, be careful, stay healthy.